I, as well as Derrick Oldensmith, are associated members of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. Position disclosures, nothing new in swings for me. As of today, after the close, I'm still long Dropbox, MGI, BOEX, which is WeWork. They had their investor day today. Didn't look like anything really came out of that, but I did not read the press releases there, so I want to take a look at that. And INSG. Okay. Let's do it. All right, so market had a big gap and go day to the upside. This tail, this is more what it looks like here. I don't know why it's having this glitch here, but market had a gap and go to the upside today, breaking over 4360 resistance, basically gapping over 4360 resistance overnight. Coming in, we opened around 4400, so let's take a look at SPY here. Again, right? Big gap up way over resistance, over the 21 EMA, into 440. So it was a bit of a tricky open, as it was a gap up that was fairly big, and typically you are inclined to think about fading it. But because it was gapping up over resistance, the potential for a gap and go was there as well, as shorts are trapped. Anyone that puked out over the past few days needs to or wants to buy back in. So off the open, we ripped up into 440, blipped 440, came back down. This was the time to try shorts versus the high of the day, which some of us did. Basically, that was able to get your risk covered, maybe a little more. But then we really just broke higher and, traded sideways all day, ended up rolling over into the close here. So SPY's up about 0.9. Q's up about 1%, IWM up 1.6%. So IWM definitely our strongest index today, partially helped by the TLT with, while the market had a gap and go to the upside, a gap and go that faded. TLT having a gap and go to the downside here. TLT's been in a bearish consolidation for the past week or so after this fast move down post-Fed day. This was Fed day when they were sweeping TLT puts from the opening bell to the closing bell. Fast move down, bearish consolidation. Daily ADMA catches up to this consolidation, and today we have a gap and go to the downside here in TLT. That didn't really seem to hurt tech too much, but it certainly helped IWM. So again, IWM our strongest index today, but really just still stuck in this gross sloppy range that we've been in. So just back to the S&P, the market. Again, really strong off the open, bit of a blip off 440, but then clearing it really early on here with other, like for example, the IWM. I mean, this trend higher today, this strong, fierce, what I like to say, the infinite bid, until a bit of a rollover into the afternoon. I think a big clue for the market's strength today, and that it was not going to break down, was just there was no warning signs from VIX here. Obviously, again, we did roll over in the afternoon. We did get a spike here, but as the market was trending higher, this VIX, I know this is the VXX and not the VIX itself. If you want, we can take a look at the VIX. The VIX itself, basically the same picture here on the 5-minute. Where's the open here? So this is the open. Basically sold right away and just rode this ADMA to the downside, downside, downside. You actually had a downside niner here on the 5-minute, and then we reversed higher to the afternoon. But there was no warning signs early on in the morning or basically all day into the late afternoon for a market turnover. Some of us, were a little bit surprised with how strong the market was, but again, it would have been one thing if like SPY ripped up to 440 and you saw the VXX ripping up to highs as well. Right? Like a SPY was around 440 here and the VIX was making highs. That would have been a pretty solid warning sign for us, but noting that we did not see any warning signs, we kept trying to point that out here. Market really, held up well. Again, though, we did roll over into the afternoon. So where does that lead us going forward? I don't know. So again, we rolled over, we closed on lows here, but we had a really solid gap up over resistance. This is kind of what I was saying at the end of the day here to the room itself. typically, if you were to ask me, you only get to pick one, gap up or gap down, I would have to say gap down based on the rollover and the weak close. But again, we gapped up over resistance. So I could see two things happening really going forward. We get a gap down, we get some selling, and then we get a retest of this 436 prior resistance, should be support going forward. That would be totally healthy. It would also be totally healthy and normal to just, I don't know, gap flat, gap anyway, really, but just chop around for like a couple days, letting this ADMA catch up to price here. And once this, maybe we chop around above 438, but, below 442. We were noting too, above 440 here, we had a gap in SPY that went to either, depending if you look at your gaps on the low or the close, either 442 or mid 442s. But maybe we just chop around for a couple days. That allows the ADMA to catch up a bit better. ADMA catches up to 438, and we're good to go with the next big resistance point being 445 from over here. So again, we rolled over into the close. We closed on lows. Is it cause for concern? Yes. Is it cause for a lot of concern? I don't think so. What would be concerning would be either like a huge gap down back below 436, which I would call pretty unlikely. Or again, if we just get any type of gap down, any type of selling where we should bounce off of 436 and pivot off of 436. If they just lose this 436 and we just get a close at like 433 and we close back below this ADMA, that's definitely going to be more concerning if that comes. But we'll see how we develop over the next couple days, really. Again, either retest of 436, bounce off of that, or maybe just we chop around sideways here and the ADMA catches up. Or worst case, if you're a bull, best case for bears is we get back below 436 and we have a close, 434 or lower there, because that will have our ADMA curling back downwards. That could be, low, lower high, lower low, potential lower high, if we get that follow through. But we're gonna have to see how it develops over the next couple days. The other thing to note, which I already kind of pointed out, is this TLT gap and go to the downside. It's just day one today, but if we see this accelerate down further in the coming days, that is going to most likely shake the market up a bit as well, specifically in tech. So definitely keep an eye on TLT, see if this rallies back up, or if this gap and go to the downside, which is really like 143.50 to 145.50. That's 2 points, so that's a measured move to 141.50. Just using simple math there. So, if we accelerate to the downside real fast, that could also definitely hurt the market a little bit. So we'll pay attention to TLT in the coming days as this SPY gap, this SPY chart, kind of develops a bit more. So let's see, what plays do we look at today? So just to highlight some plays for the day, NIO had a solid upgrade from Goldman. Chinese names as well had positive news this morning, coming from various areas. Honestly, there was a few different ones, mostly like a meeting with a Chinese ambassador and someone from the White House. I forget the exact details. But so NIO positive on that, along with an upgrade from Goldman. We're pointing out basically every dollar in NIO here is a level. So 35 prior support that broke down. We're gapping back above this 35 here. So we're saying 35 should hold. 36 is probably going to be tough with the daily 21 EMA right here, which has been serving as somewhat solid resistance in the past. 36, and then this 37 is the next level. Prior support turned into resistance 37 here. But so NIO, we were saying, should hold 35. It was a bit tricky because they flushed it right here. And this is a kind of like a golden rule that I always remind myself that Derrick always emphasizes, is when you have a level that should hold, but one of like the three golden rules of trailing stops is your ADMA on the 5 minute at least. Obviously depending what time frame you look at, but your ADMA on the 5 minute should be caught up to your out. So while NIO should hold 35, the gap up was so big this morning that had spent, first 20 or so minutes of the day chopping around. They broke 35, but it was a quick flush. The low was, 91 cents, and it was right back above 35 in the blink of an eye. So some guys were able to, to not stop out of there. Some guys were able to recognize that, it flushed, but the ADMA had caught up. So guys were able to get back in as well. We ran up to 36. 36 kind of paused us a little, grinded up higher, and then, this kind of rolled over a little bit with the end of the day there. But so NIO off 35, off that upgrade, was pretty solid. DraftKings, we were pointing out this 50 level coming into today, which, wow, now I'm seeing DraftKings. Ew, that is gross. Yikes. Some big rollovers this afternoon. But DraftKings is 50 level, which again, I guess failed today. Has been failing in the past, but has not been breaking down either, and was opening basically right into 50 this morning. So we were looking at DraftKings through 50, came up over 50 here, got sold back down, but into an uptrend here, and then you can see the volume here on this second break of 50. That's where the real solid volume came in, and that's what ended up giving some continuation, although I didn't type this up for the rest of the day, so that's a bit of an ugly rollover. 50 has failed in DraftKings once again. Looks like this 51 is actually going to be a bit of a level 2 here. So DraftKings 50 gave you some cash flow, but ultimately failed. Again, I had mentioned Chinese names earlier. Chinese, so this BABA 150. 150 is a level that should hold, we were mentioning in the morning. And on this gap up, I mean, this thing just ripped right away on huge volume. You can see the volume in this morning compared to prior days, obviously higher than normal. This was, honestly, I don't even know if you could really get into this. The ADMA, by the time the ADMA caught up to day lows, we were up in the 153s here. So definitely a bit tricky unless you were kind of just blindly buying it versus 150. But they were in play this morning. There was news there this morning. So BABA versus 150 was solid. And then JD, we were talking about this 75 level here, 75 prior support that ended up failing, but we were opening right into this 75 level. Again, a bit tricky with the gap ups this morning. I mean, this is a really big gap up. Daily ADMA is at 73 on JD here. But again, the 75 was a legit level that we identified. Basically right off the open, traded through 75, held the morning low, and gave some okay continuation. So if you're in JD, going forward for today, probably going to take a couple days to chop around while these moving averages improve a bit, but 75 should hold going forward for JD. I would be careful if this loses 75 again. And then the only other thing I wrote down that kind of worked okay was Netflix short back down through 640, albeit the execution, I mean, Netflix is hard to trade, right? But this ripped off the open, then back down through this 640 here, with again, you're shorting back through 640 when the ADMA is all the way down at 618 there. That's kind of the idea with this short. I know you're fighting the strongest FANG stock out there right now, but Netflix back down through these prior day highs for kind of like a red dog reversal on the sell side. That worked okay. But yeah, other than that, it was a pretty decent day despite the rollover in the afternoon. Again, we'll see how this develops. It would not surprise me if we just get some frustrating chop to allow this ADMA to catch up. We should hold 436 as support going forward. And if we lose 436 and get a close like 435 or below, that's what the bears are going to want to see. So definitely going to be a warning sign if we lose 436 and get a close below there. And again, keep paying attention to this TLT gap and go to the downside. It's about a 2-point range here, so a 2-point measured move to 141.50. Again, it's really about the speed here, so if we just speed to the downside, that is probably going to shake the market up a bit as well. And jobs number tomorrow morning. I believe it's tomorrow morning at 8:30. Yeah, jobs at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Um, so we'll see what the jobs number brings as well and how that impacts the market and interest rates in general. And that's all I really have for today. So if you guys have any questions, thoughts, concerns, feelings, please feel free to share them now. I've noticed you and Derrick start using Vix more often. Is it something temporary because we were engaged on down, or we should start? Um, no, I've always paid attention. We used to have Vix itself, like the actual Vix, um, but they started a few months ago. They started charging on Lightspeed's end for cache indexes, so like .spx, .ndx, .vix, and I don't really need to pay that extra money to see that when I can just go elsewhere and see it. So that's why we look at VXX so much. But no, the Vix Divergences has been a pretty big clue that we've been watching for quite a while now. Robert, I know you weren't around for it, but the parabolic top back last September, was this? Wow, yeah. So back last September, post-COVID rally, this parabolic top, we called this top really, really well, and the biggest sign for that top was VIX increasing with that market rise. So what did I say that was? September? Yeah, so I mean, I can't pull up both charts at the same time, but you can see this was like as SPY was rising, VIX was rising with it. This was a huge warning sign for that parabolic, quote unquote, like blow off top back in September, where it was like 5 days or so where SPX was just climbing higher and the VIX was also climbing higher as well. That was a big negative divergence that we identified, which ultimately, led to this huge spike down. We got this pretty sharp decline back here. So yeah, VIX deviation is something we've always looked at. We look at VXX now because it's easy to type up. VXX is short-term futures as well, so I mean, it's still, at least, especially on an intraday basis, I find VXX is fine to look at. But I mean, I'm just using Trading View here, which you can get the VIX for free on Trading View. So feeling I'm not sure what YT means. Feeling bullish with the QQQ pullback. Fundamentally, what do you think happens with everything going on? QQQ intraday pullback. I mean, yeah, I mean, similar but different look to SPY here, really. It's not perfect. I would call the level 361. We had a bit of a rollover. It looks like Q's kissed the 21 EMA on the daily here, rolled over a bit. Didn't close on lows. I mean, I guess barely didn't close on lows. So you would be inclined to think we gap down, but, you just use your Q levels. Oh, YouTube question. Cool. Yeah, so use your Q levels the same way you're using your SPY levels. 361 prior support that we broke down from and was holding as resistance that we gapped above this morning. If we get a gap down tomorrow, Q should hold 361, 360. We could easily chop around for a day or two and have this ADMA catch up, and then we kind of build out into this like 366 and then break higher. If we see some selling, 361, 360 should hold. And if we see selling and we lose 360 and we get a close at like 358 and we get a close below the ADMA on the daily again, that's going to be your warning sign that this might be, again, lower high, lower low, potential lower high. Hard to say now, but we'll see how it develops over the next coming days. DNA for tomorrow. I didn't read the short report on DNA, and I don't really know enough about this company to give you a good fundamental thesis or whatever you want to say. I don't know. I mean, 1130, 1150, a bit of a level. Really, like upper 11s is going to be tough to clear here for DNA, just, kind of based on these prior days. Um, and you got this short report out. I know Kathy bought a lot yesterday. Kathy Wood from ARC. I don't know. I mean, if you really like this name and you want to swing it, you could probably just give it to this day's low, the day the short report came out with all this volume, where we did, bounce back pretty well from that. The high is 1175. Today's high is 1165, so we didn't quite break that high. And again, these like upper 11s is probably going to be a bit tough to get through. But if you can get over this day's high, you're basically negating that short report. Then you can maybe raise your stop to like 10 or so. But for now, I don't know. This is kind of sloppy. I don't really have anything great to say about this chart. But I guess, see tomorrow. Well, I guess today's an inside day, actually. Yeah, so see tomorrow if you get an inside day, breaking up. Keep it simple. Inside day, break up tomorrow. That's your trigger. GM and F, yeah, very solid. Seeing solid call flow as well. Past prior days as well as today. Big day for GM and Ford, I believe, right? Yeah, nice. These charts are developing greatly. I think someone in here is swinging Ford. If you are, I hope you still are. Basically these, I mean, not much to say other than these are really strong charts here. Potentially using today's lows as stop outs going forward, although the real daily pivots are like yesterday's low in GM, yesterday's low in Ford. But yeah, really, I'm trying to see if I can see anything else here. I mean, not much to say other than just really strong, healthy looking charts doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Run up, bullish consolidation, breakout higher. Yeah, really strong charts. If you're long Ford and GM, I would keep being long them. If you're not long, look for a pullback. Maybe this Ford has some choppy days here. The ADMA catches up a bit better. Again, it's a big day today for Ford, so I don't know about tomorrow chasing day twos or anything like that, but overall these charts look great. Is TLT a doji sandwich on the weekly? Yes, yeah, I would say so. I mean, you got like a lot of price congestion and everything like that. It's not necessarily, and I believe that's why Derrick is calling this a bearish consolidation and not a bear flag, because you're not exactly in a downtrend. I mean, short term, yes, you are in a downtrend here, but you're more just kind of, in the middle per se. But yes, you could argue that this is a doji, a bearish doji sandwich here. For those that don't know, it's basically like a large candle in one direction, and then you get a doji kind of in the middle, and then if that breaks out higher or lower, depending on where you're going, you typically have a measured move. So this candle, basically like 152 to 147, that's like 5 points. So this could arguably have a measured move down to like 140 or so. Yeah, good luck. If anything, the 10-year is probably, if I had to pick, I would say the 10-year is more important. We just look at the TLT because it's very thick. It's a very thick traded ETF. And it shows interest rate movements well enough. I can certainly, again, same way I can go to TradingView and type up the VIX, I can certainly just type up like the US 10-year and see what that's doing. But it's just like a broad kind of picture of what interest rates are doing is why we look at TLT. I know it's the 20-year, not the 10-year. People also look at, the 10 and the 30 together and everything like that. But yeah, it's just kind of a broad view of what interest rates are doing. Vix, so the Vix Divergence, no, not RSI or MACD divergence, but just like price divergence in itself. So typically speaking, in theory, when the market is going higher, the VIX usually is trending lower. VIX goes higher when people are buying puts on the SPX. So when you have the VIX rising with the market, like that example I pointed out back in September of 2020, when you have the VIX rising with the market, that's a negative divergence for the market. If the market's heading higher, the VIX should be trending lower. And usually when you get like solid market up moves, the VIX will be just like puking out to the downside. So it's just like more price divergence. When you have the VIX rising with a rapid rising market, people were loading up puts into this. That was like a negative divergence for the market versus, on the other side, a positive divergence would be, market's going sideways, but the VIX is going lower, lower, lower. That's a positive sign. That's a positive divergence for the market. And again, vice versa. If you have like the market, trending sideways, but the VIX is making day highs. Like we saw that yesterday morning, right? Market opened down with a big gap down yesterday morning, traded higher initially into moving averages, but while the market was trading higher, VIX was exploding to day highs here. If the market, like literally look at the difference between yesterday and today. Market opens, rips higher in the first 15 to 20 minutes or so, and then gets smacked back down. That's yesterday. While the VIX yesterday, as the market's ripping higher, again, 9:45, the market is at highs. VIX is making day highs as well. That's a negative divergence. Versus today, market opens, rips higher in the same way that it did here. Maybe 440 is resistance and we get smacked back down. But again, while the market's not at all-time highs. While the market's at day highs at 9:45 yesterday, the VIX is making day highs as well. While the market is at highs at 950 today, the VIX is just dying lower, right? That's a pretty solid example actually of the price divergence I'm talking about with VIX in the market. Just you can see that action early on, and this was an early warning sign yesterday that the bounce might get faded a bit. It's not predicting that we're going to go all the way back to down lows and break lows, but it is a bit of a warning sign. Versus today, it was like a green light, if you will, that the market gapped up so big and was ripping higher, but the VXX was just not breaking. It basically opened, traded lower, did not break its opening high. ADMA caught up and we just grinded lower. So that's a pretty solid example actually. Pat, ever trade SSYS? I definitely have. This is a 3D printing name, right? Similar to Triple D. I definitely have traded this. I don't trade it often. I think I only traded it during like the short squeeze days. Yeah, look at that. Is that what Triple D did? Yeah, jeez. I've definitely traded it during like the short squeeze days, but other than that, not really. I don't know if you have a specific question on this, but this 25 level is a bit interesting here. Breaking over this, mid 24s. Solid day today. Did this close over 25? It did just close over 25. This is starting to look okay, actually. 25 is a pretty solid level for this. See if this consolidates a bit better. Like you're closing over 25 here. Daily ADMA is at 23. See if this can consolidate and build out some type of, bullish consolidation with the ADMA to catching up, and then this is a potential breakout play through 25 in the coming days, actually. Kathy buying SSYS. Yeah, she has Triple D too, I'm pretty sure. TradingView I started using this week to watch futures. Do you know how to get rid of those ads? Seems like they let you see futures, but they keep locking the screen. I mean, the only way to get rid of the ads is to have a paid membership. I'm pretty sure that actually futures are delayed on TradingView as well. There's a 15-minute delay. You can see that up here. Data is delayed. There's a 15-minute delay on futures. Yeah, there's a delay on futures, but everything else for the most part is live, including I'm pretty sure the VIX is live. But futures have a 15-minute delay on TradingView. But yeah, I watch futures on TradingView as well. The one actually little hack to that is I don't really know what this is. It's not ES, but US 500 from, I don't know if it's from investing.com, but this is futures and it's live. It's basically the same thing as ES, but it's not ES, and ES has a delay. So that's a little hack you can do, is US 500 for live futures. But yeah. What are the chases? What are the chances it opens up higher? Mohammed, I assume you're asking what are the chances we gap up higher in the market? 52.8%, I would say. I don't know. It's a coin flip, really. Again, I know we rolled over into the afternoon and we closed pretty weak here, but it was still arguably somewhat of a gap and go day. I don't know. It's a coin flip. It could go either way here. But either way, it's probably going to be a small gap, would be my guess. Whether we gap up or down, I doubt we have like a 1% gap. But, whether we gap up, if we gap up, that's probably going to be a bit fadeable. If we gap down, again, 436 should hold. Which way we gap, I don't know. I'm not good enough to guess that. If the market gaps up and does not fill the gap, island reversal. Yeah, potentially. Usually you want to see more than one day for an island reversal. I can remember one specific one. Yeah, there it is. Back post-corona crash. Right here. Which this was this was the parabolic run that ended up breaking down. But you see this was still like a mini parabolic run into here, and then we had multiple days of like floating around here with this huge gap, and we ended up closing weak and then gap down here. This was a huge gap down, but this was more of an island reversal where like one candle can work, but it would be a bit better to have multiple candles like we did here. This was like a prime island gap down reversal where we had this huge gap down. You're inclined to think, okay, big gap down, buy the dip, but because we're gapping down like way below, everyone's out of the money. This ended up being like a huge down day. I remember this day. This was tough. But yeah, I remember that day. So yeah, it could be Rich. I think Rich asked that. Yeah, Rich asked that. It could be Rich. But it would be more brutal if we chopped around for like 2 days and then we had a big gap down, below 436. That would probably have a bit more of a negative reaction than just this one day where, we're gapping up. Pat, right before market open is important for us to take the pre-market action off of our inside 5 charts. Yes, Shane. Yes. Because again, today, I mean, like, look at, for example, anything really. I guess like NIO was a bit better for the 5-minute ADMA catch up. But, if you have your pre-market charts on, like, here's pre-market, right? Like, you're kind of, you got some buying early on here at 7. You kind of just chop around sideways. Market opens right here. And, like, this is just kind of gross looking. Like, there's not much to make of it here. But if you take it off and you're observing the actual gap, and that's what we mean when we're saying, like, we're extended because of the gap up this morning, we're extended to the upside, or we're extended to the downside. That's what we're referring to as the 5-minute ADMA on your 5-minute chart. But yeah, not including pre-market action. Here, if you're including pre-market action, you're not extended at all. You're just, I don't know, just like right in the middle. Versus here, you're very extended. You got to let this 5-minute ADMA catch up, right? So yes, Shane. Not that pre-market action isn't necessarily important, but in terms of like when you're observing your gaps and waiting for the ADMA to catch up, yes. Yes, happy birthday, Josh Leffler, the Iceman. PLTR, I'm still short. Congrats on holding that. I'm jealous. I was short in PLTR. This thing was up at mid 26s after hours on this day, and I ended up getting out for like a small loss. I'm still short. Would you get out? No, I wouldn't get out. I don't know if you have your entire position still. If you were shorting, even if you started at like 25 and shorted more into 26s or something like that, you're probably decently in the money. So you have a half a position. I would maybe take a little more exposure off. It's kind of neutral, bearish neutral here, where you got this big red Maribozu, big red candle here. Your moving averages are sloped down, but this like 22 is solid. This like 23 to 21-ish area is support as well. So I would maybe take a little bit more off and then see if you can get it down to 22. Otherwise, you probably got to use this candle as your out. But that's like some solid room. That's like over 2 points to give back. So I would hate for you to give back a full 2 points. So I would maybe take a little more off and then, give it to 25 as you're out. I don't think you should just randomly take it all off, but I would take a little more off, give the rest to 25, and then you got a target of like 20, like mid 22s, 22, maybe 21 if you really want to be greedy. That's a great price. Let's see here. So when you were saying about negative divergence between SPY and VIX, we can say negative divergence between TLT and QQQ. Yeah, kinda, Robert. They're somewhat correlated, but definitely not as directly correlated, whereas like literally the VIX measures put buying on SPX, like it's pretty directly correlated. You're welcome, Natalie. So yeah, but if you got, flows in the bond market and flows in the equity market are two different things. So like, for example, today TLT had a gap and go to the downside. You would think this would crush tech today, but tech was really just trading with the market as a whole. Tech basically traded with SPY, strong off the open, rolled over into the afternoon. So, and for anyone that's listening on YouTube, Robert's asking about correlation between TLT and QQQ and looking for a divergence there. Same thing as SPY and VIX. So yeah, I mean, they're somewhat correlated, but I would not treat it the same as when you're looking at SPX and VIX, because literally VIX is directly I mean, it directly plays into it. A spike in VIX is a spike in put buying on the SPX. So, yeah. Can I look at GM for sure? I think we did look at this, but I mean, these charts are looking great here. These are definitely more swing trading vehicles than day trading vehicles, I think. But overall, this is building out exactly how you would want it to. Really nice rounded bottom here. Um, mm, I mean, even like the levels aren't really super clean here. I guess like 59 is probably going to be your next real big level for GM. Again, Ford and GM both had big day ones today. So we want to be careful about chasing day twos. Because again, now, you're up at towards 57 on GM when the ADMA is down at like 54. But being that these are big day ones, their lows should hold going forward. So if you're not in GM and you want to be in GM, see if this can do somewhat of a bullish consolidation, allowing the ADMA to catch up, and then see if like maybe you get an inside day and then you get an inside day and up setup. I'm looking for like I don't know, I can't even really see a good example in the past, but yeah, basically solid day one for GM as well as Ford. Careful just blindly chasing it on a day two. But see if this can set up a little bit better and you get like an inside day and up setup. 1550 for Ford are your next levels, and then GM your next solid level is probably this 59. Not super clean, but solid day one's there. I would think the lows for GM and Ford should not break going forward if they're going to keep trending very strong. Live, it is tough to look at a correlation between TLT and QQQ. Yeah, I wouldn't, it's something to pay attention to, but I wouldn't really, over observe it. Do I pay attention to VXN, which is VIX for NASDAQ? I know about VXN, wondering if that makes much difference in reading a QQQ play. I mean, I know about VXN. I don't really necessarily pay attention to it. The SPX has such heavyweights from like Fang and everything that, the SPY and Qs, they don't trade perfectly correlated, obviously. You can have days where Qs are weak, but IWM is super strong, so the SPY is kind of in the middle. So, I mean, I know about VXN. I don't necessarily pay attention to it. I probably should watch it. If I'm trading the Qs, I probably should watch it more. But at the same time, like, if I'm looking at like SPY and Vix Divergence and I'm seeing a clear warning sign, either, like a green light, a good sign, or a warning sign, a bad sign, if SPY is really going to roll over in a real way, if the SPX is going to roll over, the NASDAQ's probably going to somewhat roll over too. So my answer is kind of yes and no. But if you mostly trade Qs, definitely something to watch for sure. But I do know about it. Yeah, non-farm payrolls. Yeah, unemployment tomorrow at 8:30. So that'll be an important number, the jobs number tomorrow morning at 8:30. We'll see how that affects the market. We'll see how interest rates respond to that as well. Did you guys trade UNFI today? I did not trade UNFI. It was mentioned in the morning meeting today. Really nice consolidation that this is building out after this huge earnings day. We pointed out 46 is the level that it really should hold, which it did hold today. It's a pretty thin name. You can see on the 5-minute chart. You have like literally gaps on your 5-minute chart here, which is kind of ugly. So yeah, not a great day trader for sure, but obviously a solid name. Fundamentally off these earnings. So keep it simple. 46 should hold. This probably needs a little bit more time. I know that ADMA has caught up, but it was such a big rip. This probably spends more time building out somewhat of like a, asymmetrical triangle or something like that. But 46 is your level on the downside. 46 should hold in UNFI, but I didn't trade it. I'm not sure if anyone else did. But UNFI 46. Can I comment on the volume with GM? Solid I mean, it's not necessarily an initiation bar per se. I mean, I guess 55 was kind of a level. So I guess you could say this had like an initiation bar through 55. It's also just a big day one, so the volume's really solid. This is just more reason to highlight that, if these trends, both GM and Ford, Ford, same thing here, right? Pretty nice volume for Ford on this kind of like big day one. These lows should hold going forward if these trends are to keep, basically trending strong the way they are. These are some solid rounded bottoms here. GM obviously has like a lot of prior price consolidation, so you're definitely going to be running into resistance as you work your way up. But yeah, solid volume for GM. Nothing like special or crazy or mind-blowing or anything like that. I guess you can take a look at intraday volume is okay. It's not really anything too notable. But again, all the more reason to say that these are solid day ones. The lows should hold going forward for GM and Ford if they're going to stay in a super strong trend. YouTube, do I think SPY is going up tomorrow? I don't know. I really, honestly, SPY, it depends. I don't know. It depends how we gap. If we gap down, like if you're talking, is SPY going to close green? Is SPY going to break today's high tomorrow? If SPY gaps down into 436 and then we pivot off of 436 and SPY goes up tomorrow, but SPY is below today's low, does that count as SPY going up tomorrow? You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's hard to say. Again, basically just going forward for the market here, it's a bit tricky as we're kind of right in the middle in neutral territory. On the upside, 445 is our next big level that we have to get through. We did roll over today and close weak, but it was a pretty solid gap up with the ADMA lower here. So I could see us chopping around while the ADMA catches up. If we gap down, 436 should hold. And if 436, 435 doesn't hold and we get a close below 435, that's going to be definitely a solid warning sign for the market. But whether, if you're asking if SPY is up over today's high tomorrow, or if you're asking if SPY trades up after the opening bell tomorrow, we got to see how we gap. So it depends on the gap. But 436 should hold. How can you see buy and sell points on the chart? Tom Wilson on YouTube. I'm just seeing if you added anything. I'm a little confused with your question. How can I see buy and sell points on the chart? I guess I would answer that with just identifying trends and pivots on a trend. A trend is an uptrend is a pattern of higher highs and higher lows. A downtrend is a pattern of lower highs and lower lows. So like NIO trended today. You got your high, your low, you got a higher low, or you got a higher high here, but then you broke the low. ADMA caught up, flush 35, back over 35. So here's your low. You get a new day high. You get a bit of a pivot off of here, new day high, bull flag, pivot off of here. So you have your low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and then over here, your potential higher low breaks down, and that breaks the trend. And that's how you trail as well, is you trail based on the uptrend. You trail based on your pattern of higher highs and higher lows, your pivot points. Your pivot points are where, buyers take control of sellers and sellers take control of buyers. So, when you're trailing, you don't just trail bar for bar, because you're going to get, bars like this that shake you out. But really, you just got to trail based on your pivots of higher highs and higher lows. But again, I don't know if that helps at all, but I'm a little confused on the question. How can you see buy and sell points on the chart? I've been in the room for approximately 2 weeks, 3 counting open house. Is there a recording or replay of these after cap sessions? They are awesome. I donate plasma twice a week and cannot get the recap on my... yeah, Pete. It looks like people answered them. Yeah, they're posted on YouTube, on T3 Live, and then on Twitter. If on Twitter you follow at ProDeskVTF, I also tweet out the link to the recap every day as well. So yeah, they're shared on YouTube every day. Max on YouTube. I see the buy and sell volume bars, but can you estimate the delta or which side the absorption is building on? Did you ask about GM volume? I see the buy and sell volume bars, but can you estimate the delta or which side the absorption is building on? I know. I don't really know. I don't know if you're talking about like a certain 5-minute bar or like a certain 15-minute bar, or if you're talking about the day as a whole, or if you're talking about like option flow. So yeah, I'm a little confused on what you're asking. What moving averages are you using? An 8 EMA. For equilibrium, we look at an 8 EMA and a 21 EMA on all time frames. So whether it's your daily chart, your daily moving averages, or whether it's your 5-minute chart, your 5-minute moving averages, but an 8 EMA exponential moving average, and then a 21 EMA exponential moving average. This is VWAP. And then on my daily, I have I guess not on this chart, but I usually have a 50 SMA simple moving average, and this is a 200 SMA simple moving average. So 200 simple moving average, 50 simple moving average, and then 8 exponential moving average, 21 exponential moving average. Can I review Uber today? Bought the opening drive, gave a good move, but didn't give much continuation. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Uber, we were looking at this morning as it was gapping up really over this kind of range, this bullish consolidation range that's been building out. I guess you could have used like 47.50 as somewhat of a trigger. You're saying you bought 47.60s, gave a good move, but didn't give much continuation. Great price on that buy for sure. Yeah, I mean, just look at where it is on the daily with your daily 8 EMA down here. This was kind of like the tricky part of the morning, was things were gapping up so big that we were fairly extended, where it was like, okay, is some of this going to be a gap and go? Is some of this going to get faded? So, I mean, Uber looks really good for sure. But again, this daily 8 EMA is down at 46 here. So, yesterday was arguably a day 1 for Uber. So today being a day 2, this is why we argue not to really chase day 2s. They can go sometimes, and you can get another solid, green bar that closes on the highs of the day. But usually day 2s are a bit more tricky. Uber yesterday was a solid day 1 here. So let Uber, this 48 is definitely a level in Uber here. So let Uber build out a bit better into 48 here. Maybe we get an inside day tomorrow. 48 doesn't break, the ADMA catches up better, and then you get an inside day and up through 48 for a breakout. That would be actually a nice idea. I don't know if that helps, Robert, but yeah, just, on a day 2 on a gap up, just kind of choppy today. Did I already look at MGM? There's a lot of sweep activity. Yeah, MGM has had we had strong flow in this. I believe it was this day where there was actually a risk reversal as well, and this chart's been building out very well. Definitely somewhat of a sloppy name, sloppy chart, but that being said, it's building out. I think this is no, definitely not all-time highs. But still, building out really well. 44 has been the level that I've been mentioning for MGM basically every day. It needs to and should continue to hold 44. So not much to say there today, really. What did it do intraday? Kind of just chopped around intraday. Yeah, not much of a day trading vehicle, but 44 is your level for MGM. 44 should hold and continue to hold going forward. Basically, this day is low. I'm just looking at YouTube questions here. I do have to call this in a couple minutes. Speaking of opening drive, to use opening ranges. Opening drive and opening range trades, Max, is something that I love to use for day after earnings trades. Because typically for earnings movers, the day after they report earnings, or I guess if they reported that morning, the day of, typically you want to be trading in the direction that that name is trading. So that's like one of my favorite trades for earnings seasons is like you get like a solid, I guess it doesn't even have to necessarily be a gap, but just you get a solid report, solid volume on an earnings name. And depending, where the daily is as well, if it's built, if it's into a daily level, into daily support, or into a daily potential breakout or something like that, I'll use opening drive ranges. So I'll wait anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, really depending on the name, depending on how the name trades, if it's super thin, if it's super spready, what the volume looks like, and everything like that. But yeah, I use opening drive trades, and it's something I really like for earnings plays, because earnings names are going to trade that day just based on how big money is adjusting in that name. They're not necessarily going to trade with the market. So you could have, whatever the market's doing that day, you could have something just trending up or trending down all day based on earnings. So yeah. Any other questions, guys, or I think we're good for today? Cool, yeah. Okay, so again, going forward for tomorrow, we'll see how we gap. If we gap down, 436, 435 should hold. If we gap up, we'll see how much we gap. I highly doubt we have a 1% plus gap, but you never know these days. If we gap up, 445 is our next big level to watch. 442 as well, this kind of like gap resistance, which we did fade off of today. But yeah, we'll see how we gap. We'll see how TLT gaps as well. We'll see what the jobs number report looks like tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning, and we'll go from there. So thanks. Have a good night, everybody.